While researching the Siberian Maniac, I uncovered a mysterious and dark tale about the Barnaul Maniac. This story is striking both for the place of disappearance of the victims and for the death of the main suspect. But I'll start at the beginning, or rather, from the loudest place in this story. It was the summer of 2000 when 5 students from ALTGTU disappeared in a row, and at the end of June of the first 2000, 16-year-old Yulia Tektieva disappeared. She just went into the institute building and no one ever saw her again. On July 28, a month after the previous incident, Liliana Voznyuk, an out-of-town student residing in a dormitory, vanished after going for a consultation. After Voznyuk's disappearance, security was increased on the university grounds, unused offices were sealed off, and older students were brought in to patrol the area. But this did not stop the maniac from attacking again. On the 1st of August, Olya Shmakova went to find out her exam results and disappeared. The last time she was seen was in the lobby of the main building. A day after the disappearance, Shmakova's father came to file a missing person report for his daughter, but the police refused to accept it. Only after the scandal was the report accepted. The father launched his own investigation, noticing a pattern in the girl's disappearances. He attempted to inform the investigator, who dismissed his findings. On August 8, 17-year-old Angela Burdakova goes missing. She went to Office 14 to file a report about being admitted to the paid department, got a form, went out into the corridor and disappeared. Interestingly, Burdakova's parents immediately raised the alarm. But the city's leadership declared, "We have a city holiday on our hands. What, do you want to put the whole city on edge?" The course of silence was taken. Unknown faces began to tear off leaflets with Burdakova's photos. A wave of rumors swept through the city. Panic began among the residents. It seemed there was no man in Barnaul who hadn't heard about the mysterious disappearances. On August 15th, Xenia Kyrgyzova, who had passed her entrance exams, disappeared. Xenia was last seen by a friend at the main building entrance. A crucial detail, the August disappearances occurred on Tuesdays. Xenia's father turned out to be an influential businessman, and after his intervention, the search cases were reclassified as criminal and combined into a series. A large-scale search begins. Previously, it seemed the evidence thought it would stop on its own. Kyrgyzova's father even gave his people to assist the police in jointly inspecting suspicious cars leaving the city. However, time was lost. Missing persons reports only began appearing at the police station near the end of August. Kyrgyzova's team searched train stations, posts, and traffic police in Barnaul and nearby cities, but found no missing persons reports. The police did not search for the girls. A shocking fact. Parents and community members printed leaflets at their own expense, and the phones that the police provided for receiving information from the public simply did not work. There was a version that the girls were sent into sexual slavery. Requests were sent to neighboring countries, but everything is in vain. In early September, 2,000 years not far from the southern village, Kyrgyzova's clothes were found. The clothes were torn in the pockets. A university scheme and a student certificate were found. The things were scattered, demonstratively torn at the seams. Apparently they were on the victim's body. The notebook was hanging on a branch 1 meter above the ground. The chance of finding the girl alive was increasing. But the most interesting part started further on. While investigating the southern village's surroundings, the searchers found 5 fresh graves at the local cemetery. It seemed that the evidence was getting closer to solving the mystery, but the graves turned out to be empty. None of the local residents knew anything about their origin. The maniac was playing with the investigation. It's worth noting this moment, showing the cunning and inventiveness of the maniac. The investigation began to process the mentally ill sectarians, but this lead led nowhere. Large-scale searches revealed such findings as the skulls of repressed nuns from the 1920s, amputated extremities, not buried by local morgue workers. Barnaul quietly sank into panic fear, but then a terrible discovery happens. Not far from the village of Boranovo, human remains were found. Interestingly, the place of discovery of the remains was well known to both local residents and law enforcement officers. In 1998, in a place of rats and mice, the body of an unidentified girl was found in 1999. There they found the body of the missing Svetlana Oparina, who was a student at ALTGTU, went to university and disappeared. Note that we already have a missing student, and there is a place where she was found, and another unidentified girl. Knowing all this, the investigation does not take into account these nuances, does not keep a close watch. Overall, it's just another negligence. So, the remains found in the rat mouse belong to Angela Burdakova. Major forces were thrown into the search of Baranov's surroundings. More than 200 servicemen were involved who were promised leave for discoveries. This played its role. 6 kilometers away, women's items were found, followed by the remains of Zenia Kyrgyzova, Olya Shmakova, and lastly, Yulia Tetiakova. Detailed examinations of the remains were not revealed. Traces of a maniac to the evidence attracted psychiatrists. A psychological portrait was made. The maniac, aged 35-40, had a family with children and could regularly get away without raising suspicions. Obviously, the maniac had a car. Interestingly, almost immediately when processing the version, the university tried to remove any responsibility and involvement in this series of kidnappings. That's a pity. The thing is, it's a very complex architectural object, having 10 buildings, connected by dark passages, a common collector, utility buildings. There were even 74 exits, only 4 of which were guarded by watchmen. The current pro-rector stated that the police checked everything is fine, although it was not fine. During the investigation, bribe-taking teachers helping themselves to female students, and a bunch of other vices were revealed. Julia Taktakova's mother recalled that her daughter referred to the university as a gloomy place where it's easy to get lost. It is noted that the university saved on electricity, especially at the transitions from building to building. It is also noted that there is a very good ventilation system in the basements. The smells do not linger there. The university's position is interesting. Until the 15th of August, no theft prevention was carried out. On the 2nd of August, there was a solemn enrollment of budget students, and it was not even announced that girls were missing. It also turned out that before the university was searched by police officers with dogs, a fire occurred in one of the offices. The consequences were eliminated the very next day, and the university staff carefully concealed this incident. An Israeli lead even appeared in the case. Someone called Shmakova's father introduced himself as being from Israel, gave the surname Cherny Ivan, and claimed the girl was in Israel. It was subsequently established that Cherny Ivan really exists and lives in Israel, but he did not call Shmakova's father, and his details are in the phone directories in Israel. Most likely, it was a cunning move by a maniac trying to throw off the trail. No one pulled on this thread after all. One could try to establish who was traveling from Barnaul to Israel and try to identify the maniac. The investigation established that the call was international. A witness was found who saw a tall, well-built man approach her daughter and ask where she was going. She replied with humanities, and the man said that it's not here, let me take you there. The daughter called her mother, and the three of them went to another building. With the mother's words, they went through a dark semi-basement corridor. They didn't meet anyone on their way. Halfway there, the man asked if they needed any guides, and he gave them a guide. Then the mother said that their husband is waiting for them, and the strange man quickly led them back to the main building. Note, he was clearly a university employee. He had guides, and he easily navigated the university's labyrinths. The most striking thing is that in addition to the 5 victims who disappeared in the summer of 2000 and 2 girls from Rats and Mice, there were more victims. On July 14th, Valentina Mikhailukova, the mother of Natalia Mikhailukova, an applicant to Agrarian University, disappeared. On Tuesday, the 17th of July, the mother of one of the applicants to the Altai Institute of Culture, Nina Shakirova, went to find out the results of the exams and disappeared. In the same place in Vrag, where they found the bodies of Burdakova and Kyrgyzova, they found the skull of Tuvinka, who was admitted to Altai State Technical University in 1999 and was counted among the missing. Nearby, they discovered shoes that matched the description of those belonging to Valentina Mikhailukova. It should be noted that a local hunter reported a body in lower clothing in Vrag to the police in winter, and again without any distinction. Thus, the number of victims reaches up to 10 people. The famous Moscow general started to smoke the case. His participation and his negative reputation cast doubt on the guilt of the main suspect. The thing is, the general became famous for his innocent suspects taking the blame for others. Igor Bushnev confessed under pressure in the murder case of the priest Alexander Men, a scandalous personality whose arrival in Barnaul immediately led to a suspect being found. On October 27th, Alexandra Anesina, a 45-year-old female shoe trader from the local market, is arrested. He had 2 convictions. In 1997, he was jailed for hooliganism, and in the 90s he was on corrective labor for attempted theft. He had a car. He was arrested at the tip-off of one of the ALTGTU applicants, whom he offered help with admission to the university. He confesses to the murders during the interrogations. It's not wise, everyone at the general's knows. In the cell, Anison tries to hang himself on the shoelace, but fails. The details of the arrest and death are unclear, but he was detained for storing cuttings in his garage. On November 1st, 9 people, including criminals and operatives, were escorted by convoy officers. He breaks free and jumps out the window, whether it's the 9th floor, where they took him to identify the fence, to whom he sold the valuables of the murdered students, or he jumped during a subsequent experiment at ALTGTU. The facts are clear. There was no substantial evidence against him, and he either jumped himself or was helped, which is unknown. The press reported that Konvirov was charged with negligence, but the accuracy of this claim is unconfirmed. In general, in 2003 the case was resumed and the girl stopped disappearing in ALTGTU. Although every year in Barnaul about 300 people disappear, and there are enough maniacs in this city, about which I will tell in another story. The general conclusion of this story: the detectives and the general tricked the maniac, pretending they found the killer, causing the maniac to change his signature and go into hiding. Perhaps he even moved to another city, where his new crimes, due to the peculiarities of the Russian law enforcement system, are in no way associated with the Barnaul series. Most likely it was a teacher at Altai State Technical University, probably of Humanities, who was also teaching courses at the Agrarian Institute and the Institute of Culture. This explains his good knowledge of these universities, the presence of Russian language and history textbooks. Moreover, the very nature of the game with the sequel, Empty Tombs, The Israeli Trail, suggests thoughts of an intellectual maniac who could well change the handwriting thanks to the suicide of the suspected Anison. Enjoying the stupidity of the investigation, which apparently thought that all the murders were committed by a mentally ill idiot, incapable of changing the method of murder due to his stubbornness. In general, a mutually beneficial situation has developed both for the investigation and for the maniac. 10 victims were written off as a suicide, and that's where they calm down. And the maniac kills quietly once a year somewhere in another region one of the thousands of girls who disappear without a trace. He buries and enjoys life, or he just changes the character of the murder. And the stupid detectives can't even connect a murder in some Kostroma with the Barnaul series because it's impossible in Russia. Notably, the method used to kill the students was not publicized. A very interesting and dark case having a bunch of dark spots. And there is an impression that someone did not tell something, and the investigation hid something. Is the fire at the university related to the disappearance of the applicants? What is the role of the general in this case? What is behind the mysterious game of the maniac? And finally, the place of the rat mouse could be known either by a local resident or a local historian. Combining these facts was necessary. A humanities teacher, possibly a historian, teaches at various universities, possibly from the village of Baranovo or nearby villages, possibly traveled to Israel. And somewhere these assumptions would have formed a portrait of a specific person.